What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court. Today being Friday, February 18th. I am your host, Sean Murphy, and today I have the privilege of being joined by the godfather of Woodward Sports, the founder, a man who has a long, extended history in radio in the state of Michigan. My guy, a friend of mine, Stick Radio. Stick, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, man, thanks for the invite. Glad to be back on the west side of the state for a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, man. Just take a beautiful trip over to Grand Rapids, the best place to be. It feels nice to know someone that actually knows places around here.
Yeah, no, I had a great time when I was living on that side of the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stick, for those that might not know, you are the original founder of Woodward Sports, which is a company that you and I both work at, and I'm super excited to be a part of. For those of the few that are tuning in that might not know about the network, what would you tell people about Woodward Sports, and what was that journey like starting up the network on your end?
Well, first of all, I'd tell them, we're next. That's what Woodward Sport is. We're next. We're the leading digital sports media company. We're trying to do something that's never been done. We're not really emulating anybody else. We're trying to discover something different that's like a hybrid of everything. Barstool's Barstool, they do their thing, God bless them, they're awesome. ESPN's ESPN. We're not either of those things, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got its own unique flavor to it, to your point. And I think the thing that I love about it is that it's about all things sports, but most importantly, it's tied and rooted into the city of Detroit, right? And in Detroit sports in the state of Michigan, which we don't get a lot of love nationwide. So to have a network that specifically is dedicated to the Detroit sports and to our teams, we can finally have people that can give great takes and show people some love. And it's cool because not only people in Michigan are tuning in, I mean, people around the globe are tuning into Woodward Sports, which has just been awesome to see.
Yeah, man, it's wild when you go on YouTube and, they let you know what countries are watching and stuff like that. Like we got a lot of people in Germany, Madagascar, some people listening, India, people listening, China, like it really is neat. And, I have a lot of family in Arizona and, they're out there doing their good work, spreading the word about Woodward Sports, but it's gotten to a point now where they'll tell somebody, they're like, oh, you're from Michigan, check out Woodward Sports. And people will be like, oh yeah, no, I've been on that for months. It's like, it's really cool to see the growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Even from my end, as someone that I actually discovered Woodward Sports when you guys had Dwayne Casey in the office and brought him in for an interview. And when I saw
that's one of my favorite interviews, man.
Yeah,
he was great.
Yeah, that was actually the moment I discovered you guys. And I thought that interview was incredible. I thought you guys handled it great. And once I saw the network, I hit the subscribe button right away. And when I started making content and doing things on my end, I knew right away that was a place I would wanted to be just because of your guys' work in Detroit sports and everything you guys do.
And hats off to you, man, for making that thing happen. Like that's life, dude. Like you saw something you wanted, you put yourself out there, and here you are. And it's not exactly probably what you want right now as a role in the network, but this is how you grow and become better at anything.
Yeah, so, absolutely. I mean, listen, any opportunity is a start. You know what I mean? It's always a new beginning of something to come. And so, just to be able to be a writer and to talk about basketball and even appearing on shows and stuff already a little bit. It's everyone over there's been nothing but supportive and nothing but complimentary, and it's been a great team to be a part of. So for those of you that might not have seen the network, definitely be sure to go subscribe and reach out and look, because man, just in the short time that it's been, I mean, I even went back to the YouTube channel and I saw from when it started, when it was like you in your living room, like during things like the pandemic, to like now having guys like Darren McCarty, having guys like Adam Schefter that just joined, like that was on the network for a segment today. I mean, you guys have Braylon Edwards in the studio. Just, the amount of talent you guys have is just insanely awesome. So hats off to you, man, and to everyone who's helped make that happen.
Yeah, the growth has been crazy. And like you said, from me and Anson just doing funny videos on my couch, pre-games and just talking, fantasy football, to having a studio to shoot stuff in, to, like you said, the incredible lineup that, luckily we, Chad's been able to pull some strings and get some things happening. But yeah, if you would have told me year one, you'll have 20,000 YouTube followers, like over 21 million views. And we just went over 5 million views on YouTube alone.
Yeah.
Cause in the past 90 days, we had 2 million views on YouTube alone. So just watching this thing snowball has been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My first question to you, before we get into some football and stuff, I got to know, if the rematch is going to happen between you and Easy, are you taking him down? What are you going to do? What are you going to do next time differently when you step on the pad with my guy Easy again? Because
see, if I am to fight Easy, again, we got to be able to throw hands.
Yeah.
My strength is not rolling around on a mat with a 300-pound dude. My strength is being 6'4" with a 7-foot reach advantage.
Yeah.
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 That was so fun. And, like that, to me, like that's what Woodward Sports is all about. Like, yeah, by title and all that, I'm Easy's boss, right? But you know what? Like, we work together. He challenged me. I'll never back down from a challenge. I don't care if I know I'm going to lose going in. I got a chance to win too.
Absolutely.
Once he took me down and got on top of me, the dude's big, man. What do you want me to do?
There's a reason why he's a host of the Woodward Heavyweights. That's okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you look early in the fight when he's trying to get me and I keep pushing him off, if those were punches, he would have been on the ground.
Oh, 100%. He absolutely would have been on the ground. No doubt.
And I got bored. Like, my ADD kicked in during that fight. The dude just lays on the mat because he knew he couldn't take me to the ground. So he just lays on the mat. And I'm like, well, people didn't pay to just see me walk around a dude laying on the mat. So I tried to get him. He got my ankle, crawled on top of me, and smothered me.
Hey, just saying, if you need someone to come out and be like Bruce Buffer next time, I could just come out like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fighting out of the blue corner. We could do something like that if need be.
That's amazing. My favorite part about that whole thing is, mybookie.com is one of our sponsors, and they actually put it up and people bet on it. Like it was a real, like I have fought in a sanctioned betting match.
Hey,
I lost, but I fought.
Hey, that's something that you could have in your record. You know what I mean? Like no one could ever take that away from you.
Nope. I'm 0-1 in professional fights.
Hey, you know what? It's not about the record right now. It's what the record's gonna end up being, Stick. And hey, who knows? Maybe you'll get a belt on you at some point. So, hey,
listen, my bar fighting stats are much better.
Well, yeah, we'll see you down at the brass rails down in Detroit. And we'll ask people about your record there.
It's funny, actually. The last fight I got in at a bar was at the Tin Can in Grand Rapids.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. I knocked 2 kids out.
To be honest, that doesn't surprise me at all. That sounds like the Tin Can, to be real with you.
I'm telling you, man, Grand Rapids is beautiful and but people get away with stuff in Grand Rapids that you don't get away with in Detroit.
Oh yeah. Well, because here it's so different. Cause even in Detroit, like the outskirts of Detroit, it's still civilized. You know what I mean? Like, whereas here it's like, you go like 20, 30 minutes out of Grand Rapids and you'll have people that don't have a neighbor within like 2 miles of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a completely
they don't know how to interact with people. Right. Yeah. All these kids were acting a fool at the Tin Can. And I literally just came over and told them to stop. And then they got all puffy chested and,
Hey man, that's how you do it. Oh my gosh. Well, not to make you want to fight me, but now we got to get into your favorite topic, which is Matthew Stafford, the quarterback who just won the Super Bowl. I sent you a GIF of Stanley from The Office laughing right as he won, just as a fun little jab, just because I knew leading up to it. Not that you were a doubter, but I think at Woodward Sports, it's fair to say that you were probably not as positive as some other people on staff. Would that be fair to say?
I was just a show me guy.
Yeah.
And to me, people lowered the bar so much for him when he went to LA that if he won one playoff game, he solidified himself and proved us all wrong. It's like, no, let's calm down. Like, they didn't bring him there to win one playoff game. Right. And I wasn't going to give him his flowers until he completed the mission. And he did it at the Super Bowl. And I have to give him credit for that. But beating the Arizona Cardinals by throwing the ball 17 times, wasn't it for me.
Yeah.
Beating Tom Brady on that comeback, that was nice.
Yep.
But, you know, beating San Francisco, he didn't really – San Francisco dropped that interception. He almost gave them that damn game. And even in the Super Bowl, they didn't win because of Matthew Stafford. He contributed, but he wasn't like – he never, to me, was like the guy that pushes you over the top. But he's a great game manager, and we saw that here in Detroit too. When Calvin went away and they had to change the offense to be more of a distributor, his stats went through the roof. Right. And to me, that's always what he's been, an above-average quarterback and a great game manager. And when you put the right pieces around him, he got it done. But I wasn't shocked by any of that. Some people were like, oh God, he won a playoff game. It's the greatest. He's going to the Hall of Fame. It's like, dude, they won a playoff game with Warford last year.
Yeah, with that, my follow-up question is, where in Matthew Stafford's house do you think he should hang up his jacket from Canton, Ohio, when that eventually comes in? Where
I don't think he's quite there yet.
I know, I'm just kidding. I just want that was like what's the question I could think of that could raise Stick's blood pressure on an instant? That's the one.
Oh, no. See, and that's the thing. And people always misunderstand. Like I said ad nauseum, Stafford is the greatest quarterback to ever wear a Lions uniform.
For sure.
But that doesn't mean he's a great quarterback. You know, before he won the Super Bowl, he was Jay Cutler to me.
Ouch. Jay Cutler.
Go look at the stats. Go look at the stats. Eerily similar.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing that Jay Cutler didn't have that Matthew Stafford did, and even though like a lot of times, especially teams above 500, his record in Detroit, let's just be honest, it wasn't great. You know what I mean? However, I think the one thing that Matthew Stafford did that Jay Cutler didn't have, which I would say is the clutch gene, is his ability to come back and take your team in the fourth quarter. And I think Matthew Stafford shined in a lot of those moments, whereas Jay Cutler was Jay Cutler in a lot of those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That whole fourth quarter comeback thing to me is fool's gold. You have to be down. You have to be down in order to come back. I prefer my quarterbacks to never be down. You know, like Joe Montana didn't have a lot of fourth quarter comebacks. You know why? He dominated the first fucking three quarters.
Right.
You know, even in the Super Bowl, Matthew Stafford had a fourth quarter comeback, but they also blew a 10-point lead to make that happen.
Right.
So, like, it's a cool stat. It really is. It does show that he has that clutch gene, and also shows that dude should always be in a hurry up offense.
Yeah, 100%. It feels like it almost felt like on that final drive between him and Cooper Kupp, it felt like the Sean McVay offense went to the side, and it was, okay, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, go win us that Super Bowl. Like, here's the ball.
It had to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it had to be because they didn't have any other choice. It was at that point the running game was stagnant, but I think if anyone in Detroit knew, that was just something for Matt Stafford. That was a regular Sunday. He's used to not having a running game because he didn't have one for years.
But wasn't that one of the major excuses for Stafford fans that, oh, he didn't have a running game, that's why he can't? It's like, come on, man. Like, you can win. You can win. If you're a winner, you win. And, you know, Stafford was great here. He's great for the community. You know, I can't speak highly enough about Kelly Stafford. When we started Woodward Sports, she was a big part of that, like putting us on her Instagram, like finally somebody, you know, that people that are talking good about the city and stuff like that. So I respect them, but, you know, if we're talking between the lines, I needed to see it.
Yeah. No, that's a perfectly legitimate argument, especially when, for all intents and purposes, for years we didn't have that in Detroit, right? There were just points where we didn't see it. And so,
yeah, and when he had the opportunity to show it, it didn't happen. You know, like everybody wants to talk about the Dallas game, but we got the ball back with 5 minutes left. Nothing, you know? So
yeah,
I'm happy for him. I despise everybody who thinks that it meant something for Detroit, because it didn't.
Yeah. Now the only thing I felt after that game, I don't think it meant anything for Detroit in the sense that first of all, the Detroit Rams thing was just objectively stupid. I never got offended by that because I always just saw those shirts as like dumb novelties that were going to be shoved in the back of the closet by the time people were done wearing it anyway. But when, you know, at the end of the game, you know, I think at first a lot of the people that were rooting for Stafford, it was kind of an initial feeling of, oh, well, we're happy for you, happy to see you get it done. But I think on the other hand, it just reminded us of where we were at. I mean, even Brad Holmes going into the game was like, they're preparing for the Super Bowl. We're preparing for the Senior Bowl. That's where we're at right now, and I think it was just a sobering reminder of what it's been like as a Lions fan. Did you feel that at all after the game, or what? How did you feel like going into Sunday and leaving Sunday? Did your feelings change at all?
Probably a little bit more respect for Stafford as a quarterback, definitely there. But yeah, as far as where the Lions are at, no, it just shows it's the most Lion-esque thing ever.
Right.
Trade a guy away and he wins a goddamn Super Bowl year one.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm used to this. Like, it hurts.
Right. So if anything, you're just calloused, kind of, just to this.
Yeah, when it comes to that stuff, I'm a Lions fan, like Stafford's not a Lion. I'm not rooting for him like that. I wanted our draft pick. I wanted them not to make the playoffs this year, And, I did root for Verlander when he left, but Verlander got us to a World Series. Like, it's like, all right, the guy climbed the mountain with us. We never got it done for him. We never really even climbed the mountain,
Yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, we climbed the mountain in comparison to where we were before he came into the franchise. I think, the fact that we were in those positions and actually we're in the playoffs, like, it's like, it's kind of sad that like our mountain is like the kiddie pool and like everyone else's mountain is like the water slide. You know what I mean? Like we haven't even gotten our floaties off yet.
And that's one of I'm a huge Caldwell fan. Me and Adam go hard at each other about Caldwell. But that's one of my biggest arguments about why he was so great is our floor with Caldwell was a higher floor than we've ever had.
Yeah.
The ceiling wasn't there, right? We didn't get to where we needed to be that way, but at least our floor was here, not here. Our floor was 50% in the playoffs, competitive every year. Sorry, my dog's trying to play with me down here.
Oh no, you're fine. You are totally fine. Yeah, I think
this is Woodward.
Oh, there we go.
That's Woodward. He's trying to get me to play with his toy.
Oh, your dog's name is Woodward too?
Yeah. So, when the network first started, we needed content. So Joey and I started doing a morning show.
Yeah.
And, we used to bring Detroit Dog Rescue in every week to adopt a dog, because part of Woodward sports was just being ingrained in the city. Right.
Absolutely.
And one day they brought this little bastard in and I fell in love and I was like, no, we ain't giving him away. And I adopted him.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
That's my dog. And his name at the time, ironically, was Adam, but I renamed him Woodward.
That's awesome, man. It's cool. It's cool when things like that come to be.
Woodward the pup on Instagram if y'all want to follow.
Heck yeah, go follow Woodward the pup. Absolutely. No, I think I know Adam's argument about Jim Caldwell. I know your argument about Jim Caldwell. I think I land somewhere in the middle because I mean I've always respected and really liked Jim Caldwell. I mean, you go back to his years with Indianapolis, they were consistently up towards the top of the AFC and in the AFC South as well. I think the thing with him was the fact that I agree with at the time that 9-7 wasn't good enough, but if we knew what we knew ahead of time, I also think they just didn't give him enough time in Detroit either. But even then,
when in the history of the Detroit Lions football team has 9-7 not been good enough?
Right.
That's my thing. Like, we just got it's like we look in the mirror and we see Giselle when we're really looking like some disheveled chick that's just leaving the bar at Michigan State, that lucky to get picked up by anybody. And we're like, oh, we deserve 9-7. It's like, no, you don't deserve that. You deserve mozzarella sticks at Applebee's.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, if you're looking from the standards of a team that wants to get to the Super Bowl, I mean, if you're in a bubble and not looking at what the Lions have been, 9-7 technically isn't what you're shooting for, which is true. However, I think to your point, like you're saying, well, for the Lions, that's gravy. I mean, we went 0-16. We're the first team to ever do that. Like,
especially when 9-7 was our floor.
Yeah.
Like, that was our floor, man. Like, Caldwell was 11-5. Like, then 9-7. Then 9-7. It's like, come on, man. Like, that's a winning team consistently is how you become a championship team consistently.
Are you of the
It's
mindset if they got the Eric Ebron pick right, like if they went a different route, took Aaron Donald, do you think that would have actually changed anything in Detroit?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would have changed a lot of things because then losing Stu wouldn't have impacted your number 2 ranked defense so much.
Yeah.
You slide Aaron Donald right in, or maybe Stu looks over and is like, "Man, me and this dude, we're about to wreck this league
Can you
together."
if they were especially with what Stu was at the time, if those two
Mhm.
would have been together right in the middle.
But it's not even about Darnold. Look at the rest of the draft, like right behind Ebron. Odell Beckham.
Yeah. 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 It's just like if to me, like that feels eerily like as a Pistons fan, it's like, listen, we don't got to talk about the Darko draft. We don't got to talk that's the obvious one, right? But it's even like the Luke Kennard draft when it's like, oh, I don't know, Donovan Mitchell at the next pick, or even the Stanley Johnson pick. It's like, oh, I don't know, Devin Booker, or like any other, you know what I mean? Like certain years, there was the Brandon Knight draft. Oh, I don't know, Kawhi Leonard. Like you could go down the list of all those different things. I think the Lions is just that there's been so many, like it almost just feels like we don't really talk about like those as much. I mean, I think the one that sticks out the most is the Eric Ebron pick, right? I mean,
yeah, it's just because Ebron turned out to have hooves for hands and was an asshole. You
Yeah.
know, like
yeah,
even if he sucked but was nice to people, he'd be fine. Like my first impression of Eric Ebron, I was still working in radio. You know, I worked with the station JLB. 97.9 JLB. It was the urban station here in Detroit. And we used to throw a concert called Big Show at the Joe. And Eric Ebron showed up his rookie year. And he's just like pushing by security. Like, I got more money than you. Like, it's like that's just what kind of dude he was. And, you know, I'll give you a pass. Like, if you suck, but you're cool.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's just so many. You could just go down a list of all the, like I said, especially in the city of Detroit, all the bad luck that we've had. But I think when I look at the playoffs this year, I think you can look at each team like as each round has gone on, especially the teams that lost. I think like you can say, oh, well, this is what they were missing in order to win a championship. Like for example, like the Cowboys, it felt like they were a coach away from being a serious team. The 49ers, it felt like they were a serious quarterback away from being a Super Bowl team because they almost got there without a quarterback, and then Jimmy Garoppolo collapsed in the fourth quarter. The Rams come back, and, you know, he plays his worst quarter arguably as a 49er. You know, like I think each team you could do certain things like that. And I know a topic of conversation is the Lions looking at what the Bengals did and saying, oh, well, could we replicate that? And I don't know about you, but to me, my initial thought is, hell no, because that requires getting a guy like Joe Burrow behind the helm, and I don't think Detroit's going to have the opportunity to get a guy like that anytime soon. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that, but do you look at Cincinnati at all as like a blueprint for what we could be doing in Detroit?
No, I'm with you. I mean, it's obviously what you want to do as a blueprint, right? Your second-year quarterback leading your team to the Super Bowl, but the way the Lions are building this team is almost the exact opposite of the way the Bengals are building their team. I mean, their offensive line is dog trash. Like, that thing, like it's getting their franchise quarterback murdered. You know, ALC injury first year, MLC sprain now. Like it's getting that, but they got to a Super Bowl, so I would trade that for anything as a Lions fan.
Right,
so it's hard to knock them. But we're building from the inside out. They built with the skill positions and really just didn't give a shit about the line.
Yeah, exactly. And people are saying that, like, if they drafted Penei, like the fact that I saw someone say that not drafting Penei Sewell cost them the Super Bowl, but I don't. If they didn't have Jamar Chase, they wouldn't have even been in that position. They wouldn't have even had the opportunity to go to the big game. They wouldn't even been in the playoffs.
It seems pretty obvious, right? Like, and I even knocked them for taking Chase, but that was the 100% right pick for them this year. Because look at them next year. Next year, they're going in. I think they have the most salary cap in the entire league. So they're going to get their offensive line. They're going to buy it. They're not going to draft it. They're going to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and newsflash, guys are going to want to go play for the team that just made it to the Super Bowl. And especially go guard Joe Burrow. I mean, that's a pretty tantalizing job, right? I mean, I
love Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure about you, but like he gives me vibes of like Joe Namath in the modern day, just like how he carries himself. Like not like not like his play, but just like the swagger about himself. You know what I mean? Like how people looked at Joe Namath that way. But
yeah, he's everything Baker Mayfield wants to be.
Exactly. I saw people edit photos of Baker Mayfield in the Lions uniform, and that made
God.
Yeah, I made me vomit. 'Cause I'm like, don't we already kind of have that in Detroit and Jared Goff? Like, aren't they pretty much the same quarterback, except Jared Goff's taller?
I'd take Goff over Baker Mayfield 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, 100%. The Browns, by the way, a team. I was thinking back to the beginning of the year. The Browns were the dark horse Super Bowl team in Ohio for a lot of people going into this season, just because of their running game and I think because of their defense. And people were kind of overhyping their head coach a little bit too. Do you think?
I mean, I like Stefanski.
Yeah.
Stefanski's a hell of a coach, and they should have built upon last year. But and we learned that Odell Beckham wasn't the problem. It's probably Baker Mayfield.
Oh yeah.
So when your quarterback's the problem, you're in trouble.
Oh, 100. Especially when Odell pretty much he walked. They didn't get any compensation. He was able to walk, and the fact that the Rams got him for cheap, didn't have to really trade anything, just got to add them to their roster for nothing. And
his dumbass was paid in Bitcoin, and he's only getting like at the end of the year, I think he's only making like $300,000 this year.
Hey, that better come with like free seats at the crypto.com arena or something, man.
Hell yeah. But yeah, he took his in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was trading at like 60,000 at that point. It's down to like 34 now. So he took a pay cut.
Oh, 100%. That was definitely a bold thing to do. Okay, got your video back there.
Yeah, sorry, my sister was calling.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I when I think of situations or futures in the league that I do not envy, the Cleveland Browns are one of them, just because they will definitely have to figure out what's going on there. Another team in the football landscape. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I believe you are a Michigan man, a University of Michigan man. Seeing that, no, are you kind of indifferent? Are you kind of down the middle?
Yeah, I always tell people, like, I went to University of Detroit.
Okay.
We don't have a football team. I grew up, I had a third grade teacher who was a Michigan cheerleader, and I had a crush on her. So she got Michigan in my blood very early.
Uh-huh.
But, I partied my ass off up at State. I was there for when they won the championship in 2000. Like, I have fond memories of State. I root for both those teams.
Yeah.
This year, I did find myself rooting for Michigan to win that game. But that's not like that every year. When Jalen Watts-Jackson returns that, the fumble with the snap, I was rooting for State that year because I didn't want to see the rivalry switch hands that quickly.
Right.
So yeah, no, I root for both teams, but yeah, I'm not a Michigan man, but I'm not a State guy either.
That's fair. So really, you support both teams, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what you're feeling in the moment, or kind of based on the storylines going into the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love Grand Valley.
Yeah.
I love Ferris. I love all those schools.
Yeah.
I root for all of them because shit, I party my ass off at Western too. I love the Broncos.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know what? That's a good way to look at it. It's like, hey, they all gave back to me. They all had a great time at all of them. That's a great way to look at it.
And I've had friends and other people play at all of them too. So like I'm rooting for Michigan, like the state of Michigan.
Yeah, for sure. Seeing anyone in the state of Michigan to root well, I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of us do that, whether they like to admit it or not. I know for me, the Michigan State rivalry to me is way more friendly of a rivalry than the Michigan and the team down south rivalry is.
Oh yeah, I hate those fuckers.
Oh yeah, they can go fuck themselves.
Dude, my first interaction with an Ohio State fan is I was at the Charles Woodson David Boston game in 1996, right? And I was in high school at that time. I'm older than people think. So like I was in high school at that time, and my friends were Ohio State. My friends' parents were Ohio State alumnus, so they took us to the game, and I was sitting in the Ohio State section. I was rooting for Michigan because I'm from Michigan, right?
Yeah, of course.
This dude from Ohio State grabs me from behind, pulls me back, and like starts screaming in my face. And literally, dude, I'm like 16 years old. And I'm like, this grown ass man trying to attack a teenager. Like these people from Ohio, and I've never respected them since.
Yeah, they got to get the hell out of here, man. They can go screw themselves. But yeah,
A good time this year up in Ann Arbor, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, listen, man, when we won that game, so I've only, as in my lifetime as a Michigan fan, I've really only seen Michigan get it done now 2 times. In the first time,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the first time, it really didn't mean anything because it was the year we both were trash. It was the transition year where they had Ryan Day as their interim coach, and then they brought in Urban Meyer, obviously, and we all know the rest is history from there. With the Jim Harbaugh stuff that happened this offseason with him flirting with the NFL and that kind of weird, like is this legitimate? Is this not? Is he leaving? Is he staying? And now, obviously, him signing an extension and it looking like he's going to stay long term for now. What were your thoughts on how that situation went down? And as as someone that that watches the program, was that something that you were taken aback by, or was it something that made sense to you? Because for me personally, I was like, listen, it was the time to go explore the NFL. Like if he's going to do it, it was the time, right?
I can't see him ever leaving Michigan, man.
Yeah.
I just don't see him until he gets that natty.
Yeah.
Like to me, it means more than him. And if he had never been to the NFL, I would have been a little more concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with a guy like Jim Harbaugh in the NFL is he's a rah-rah guy.
Yeah.
And rah-rah guys have shelf life.
Yep.
It's like a Jim Schwartz situation. Eventually, you can only come in the locker room so many times, flip the table, and get a response.
Yeah.
But in college, you have every 4 years, your team is completely overhauled.
Yeah.
You have new faces. So that rah-rah really never wears off.
Right.
And that's why I think Jim Harbaugh is better suited for college. And that's why I think he understands that too. Is like, listen, I could go mess with the pros, but this guy may be making more money than me. And I may have to coach him for 7 years. And in year 7, is my message going to get heard?
Right.
No.
Right. Exactly. I when I think of, I'm a big NBA guy, so I even think of Tom Thibodeau over in New York right now. He's a guy that it seems like every time he's a coach or every time the cycle goes around, Jim Harbaugh, to your point, just like that when he was in San Francisco, at first it was the rah-rah, brought that group together, and then it just kind of progressively went down a little bit as he was there and as time went on. And,
that's how it is with those types of coaches, man. It really is.
Yeah, 100%. And
by a guy like the Zen Master, that's why he can coach you for 15 years because he's doing other things to your brain.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I thought the Vikings situation would have made sense for him, but even then, it never felt like, to me, when I first heard the Vikings was the potential job he was leaving us for, I was like, the Vikings. I mean, like the Raiders would have made sense to me. Like that's a big job, or even the Bears to a certain extent because he has ties there. Like he might want
Miami made a little bit of sense to me.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, I just don't see him anywhere else, man. He's a Michigan man. That's what he is.
Yeah, 100%. At a certain point, you have that job for so long, or you're there, and you build that presence. It's just like, now that he's been there and now that he's had that program, it's just he's synonymous with that program now, and they're perfect for each other because Harbaugh has free reign to go out and do whatever he wants, and Michigan in return, they get to be a relevant program and get to celebrate good football being played under his watch. So.
And why would you leave now? It's like,
right.
It's like you're building a house. It's the best house in the neighborhood. You finally got it to where you go. And you're just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm leaving.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is really just the NIL deals. I think that's the only thing that you could look at where it goes, okay, well, it makes sense why he would want to leave with that because, it is such a complicated system, and Michigan is kind of behind as far as getting those guys. However, I mean, over the last few years, I don't know if Michigan's ever had the best recruiting class. We might have had some recruiting classes that have rated, decently high in the ESPN top 100 or whatever. But I mean, I just don't know if even with the NIL deals, I just don't know if Michigan will be able to reach that national championship anytime soon, especially with Ohio State getting as good as they're going to be this year too.
Yeah, and the NIL is part of it. Also think the transfer portal is part of it, because now you got to recruit these kids every year. It's not just, oh, I got him, he's signed. It's no, every year you got to make sure little Timmy's happy and wants to play on the team next year, because he's going to cry and go to Northern Ohio, Indiana University just to play. You know, it's like, I get that can be annoying too. But yeah, at the end of the day, you don't come close and then just leave. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of questions on the back end.
Right. For sure. Especially too, I mean, Michigan, especially keeping a guy like Harbaugh around is super important, especially with what they're building in East Lansing right now. Because I think after watching them this past year, I'm not going to lie, when Mike D'Antoni left, I thought it was going to take quite a while for Michigan State to build that program back up. But to be back and as relevant as they were, as quickly as they were. Now, granted, after they went and beat Michigan, the next week they go out and lose, right? I mean, that wasn't a super shining moment, but I mean, if I'm a Sparty fan, I'm feeling pretty darn good at what they're having built in East Lansing. I mean, do you not?
I'm at the wait and see point. I think what Tuck does exceptionally well is create a vibe, create a brand, create an energy, and we'll see if that transitions into wins. I thought this year was kind of a little bit of fool's gold for Michigan State. I didn't think they had. Fluke. I just didn't think they had as an impressive season as their record said. And, you know, it can work both ways. Sometimes you can outperform your record. Sometimes you can underperform your record. This year, I think they outperformed the record, because, like, you go back to the Michigan game. Not saying they got lucky to win that game, but down 19, second half, like, things had to happen to get that W, right?
Yeah.
But let's say they don't get that W, and then they go lay the egg the next week as well. And then they, you know, lose a couple more games. Now you're looking at almost like a 500 team instead of the solid team that they became. And they won their bowl game, which makes it look a little bit better. So I'm optimistic for Michigan State. I just don't think that they're as dominant as their record indicated this year.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, they're going to have to prove it again, because I think especially now after the contract extension, with how big of a contract extension that was. I mean, congrats for getting that deal done, but man, that's a pretty quick time to get that kind of deal, especially with how lucrative it is and how long-term it is too. I mean, that's
it really had nothing to do with the university. Yeah, it wasn't about the university, man. It was about Ishbia, and it was about those guys stepping in and the boosters saying, hey, let's lace this guy up with 90 million. We'll take care of 80 of it. University, can you handle 10? Good to go. You know, because we have a show on Woodward Sports. It's called Inside the Locker Room. With Brian Solomon and Jason Strayhorn. Strayhorn does the radio color commentary with George Blaha for Michigan State.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Masalam's, you know, one of their I don't want to call him a booster, but he's one of the people that helped, and like Mel Tucker thanked him in his acceptance letter and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten to peek behind the curtain a little bit on how all that went down. And, you know, it was Michigan State alumni saying, this is our guy, here's some money, re-sign his ass, and the university doing it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, another great program, a lot of different great shows and personalities and people on Woodward Sports, a lot of great information. And a lot of times, quite frankly, you hear it first on Woodward Sports, which, you know, for a network that young to have that ability too. I mean, to you know, like even the bottom line, I loved, you know, Braylon's and those guys' coverage on the Jim Harbaugh situation and everything that went into that, because, you know, to have those kinds of voices that know the program and know the people, you know, as well as they do, I think, you know, that's something that makes, you know, especially those programs on the network special, is having that connection deep rooted into the network for sure.
That's one of my favorite things when you know, sometimes I have to sub in on the shows, like, you know, somebody's out and stuff like that. And, you know, I always view it when I'm on with a DMAC or I'm on with a Braylon, like I'm talking to Oz, and I want to see behind the, I've never been in a locker room of a Stanley Cup championship team. I don't know the vibe of a coach after a losing streak, you know, and there's so many nuances. And at the end of the day, I'm still a sports fan, right?
Yeah.
And I get to ask a professional athlete what it was like, and pick their brain, and that's something that has really been fun about subbing in on those shows, is really getting to know what these guys think. Like the other day when it came out about coaches being paid to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of those coaches was Hugh Jackson in Cleveland, and he was coaching when Braylon was there.
Yeah.
And when this news story broke, we're just sitting around talking about it, me, Braylon, and Ryan Armani, and Maz, and we're just saying, man, like, how could a coach do that? And what about the gamblers and stuff like that? Braylon goes, fuck that. What about the players who they didn't know the coach was trying to lose? And we're worrying about gamblers. We're worrying about betting lines. We're worrying about all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's a dude that was literally on that team, not knowing his coach was being paid to lose. Yeah. Like, that perspective just blew my mind in that moment.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't really think about, because like you said, you're thinking from the fan perspective, but just have those voices in the room. Like, to have, I mean, man, my first appearance on the network was on Big D Energy, and I got to be on with Darren McCarty, and just him asking about my perspective on Piston stuff. I'm like, man, I might know a good amount about this team, but like you have, even if you're not in the Pistons locker, way more about pro locker rooms and everything going on there. I mean, just just having guys like that and how fun they are, but also just, again, to your point, the perspective they have. Absolutely incredible stuff.
It's amazing, man. Because I think at heart, we all wanted to be professional athletes, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, we all started as, I don't know about you, I learned pretty early on when I was a kid that I was not going to be playing, so I discovered that if I wanted to be involved, I'd be better off talking than playing, that's for sure.
No, I was always a decent athlete, man. Like, I thought I could go pro at one time, and being around pros, and I got the body type for it. It's just life works out in different ways, and I'm one of those guys that gets to blame injuries for why I didn't make it.
There you go. What if you were to have gone pro, what sport would you have gone pro in?
Football was my strongest.
Okay.
But I was also a damn good catcher.
You were a damn good catcher too? What did you play? What position you play in football?
A little bit of everything. I was a fullback for a long time, and then a tight end and defensive end.
Okay. I like it. I respect it, man.
Yeah, but I had to have surgery on both my knees in high school, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, but I always tell people, I'm glad it happened in high school, because you see these guys in college that, and even in the pros, that's their whole life. They've never even thought about what the hell I'm going to do outside of sports.
Oh yeah.
Because they've always had that, and then they lose it. So as much as I want to tell myself I probably could have gone pro, no, I couldn't have. And I'm glad I got to focus on other things earlier in my life than trying to chase that dream, because the percentage of being a professional athlete is just unreal.
Oh yeah, it's insane. It's the 0.01%, and even then, of those guys that are gonna be the stars, it's the 0.01% of the 0.01%. It is the small list of people. I mean, even a guy like Braylon Edwards, who was really good in college, who was a solid pro, was in the league for years, but was never a top wide receiver per se. He was a guy that could a solid contributor, but even as amazing of an athlete as Braylon Edwards was, even again, when he got to the pros, again, it's to the 0.01% of the 0.01% that are up there towards the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. I do some color commentary for the G League team, the Motor City Cruise.
Yeah.
And Saban Lee will come down to the G League, and he's a 40-point a game scorer, just schooling everybody. And those guys are great athletes. Then he goes to the NBA, he could get 3 minutes of floor time.
Mm-hmm.
It's athletes are just so, through my radio background and being around musicians all the time and stuff like that, I've never been impressed by musicians. I don't know why, but when I meet an athlete, I'm just oh my God, I know what it takes to be you. And it's amazing that you have those skills.
Yeah. And even people always talk about the G League, they're oh, it's just the G League or whatever, but the skill gap is not that far from from the NBA to the G League. Like a lot of those guys, like, you know, like Luka Garza. I mean, in college, he was a college player of the year. Whenever he goes down to the G League, he's like the Jokic of the G League. You know what I mean? But
yeah, he kills it down there.
Yeah.
But then, you know, he gets to the pros and he's just a dude. Like the NBA, like any professional sport is just next level.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
it's just unreal. Like, you know, and that's why I say, yeah, I think I could have been an NFL player. And then I go and get close to the game and watch one of those hits, and I'm just like, nah.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
I die.
Yeah, 100%. To bring it back to the Lions a little bit, speaking of guys that are in that top percent, you know, only a certain percentage of guys are going to be drafted as high as the Lions will be able to draft this upcoming April, and they'll be able to select the second overall pick. And there's a lot of talk as to what the Lions are going to do. I know some people want us to go get a pass rusher like Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson. I know some people love Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. I personally don't. I agree with the argument of not drafting someone in the why am I struggling with that as a safety? You know,
we drafted our next safety 2 years ago in the first round. His name's Jeff Okudah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Didn't work out as cornerback. He's going to be a good safety. That's my theory on him. But Adam loves pointing this out. Like, of all the top safeties in the league, you can look at where they were drafted, and none of them are drafted in the top 20 even.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one that was drafted top 20, but that's it. Everybody else, 37, 38, 42, 52, 57. Like, that's where you need to get your safety. And so I'm assuming you're asking me who I think we should draft, right?
Yeah, exactly. That leads down to if you were Brad Holmes, or if you were Dan Campbell, or if you were in that Lions front office, who are you saying, hey, this is the guy we need to bring into the building?
I like Thibodeau. Mm-hmm. That would be my target. Hutchinson's good. I just feel Thibodeau you can use him in more ways, kind of like a Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that what Hutchinson, you know, like just being a defensive lineman is a bad thing. Look at TJ Watt, or, you know, any of those guys are disruptive, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I just like how we could move Thibodeau around. But at the end of the day, man, I honestly don't know what the Lions should do. We need help everywhere outside of running back and offensive line.
Yeah.
So
literally everywhere. Yeah. And
luckily we're in a position where I trust our GM now beyond belief. And if Brad Holmes wants to take Malik Willis there, I'm going to say, all right, I know that these guys worked with him at the Senior Bowl. They did their due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roll with it.
Yeah.
So even if they take Hamilton, I'm going to be like, all right, but Brad Holmes knows more than me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that even I notice, or the thing that I feel as a fan, it feels like it's the first front office and coaching staff that has a true identity and a vision that's like unique to our own. Like even like when Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn came in, it was supposed to be Patriots North or Patriots Midwest. And that's never going to work, especially the New England Patriots system is not something you can just go replicate and put in any situation or any circumstance, because there's only one Bill Belichick. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, ask Charlie Weiss, ask Romeo Crennel, ask Matt McDaniel. Like, you don't just pick up and go with that system. It's Bill Belichick.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So I've only been to one Lions game in my life. Fun story.
Oh,
I need to change that, by the way. I definitely need to change that. Maybe head down to a Lions game with some Woodward guys this year. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. One of our pregame and post games, they were a blast this year.
Oh yeah, I love watching those pre and post games, especially whenever something bad would happen. I could go on and I would not feel alone, because he would just be like, "What the fuck is happening here?" But you know, I know for me personally, so my one Lions game, it was Monday Night Football, and it was Jets Lions. It was Matt Patricia's first game.
We blew that game.
Yep. We had the great pick six in the beginning.
Yep.
And then the rest of the game happened. And it was
Sam Darnold.
Yep. Sam Darnold's debut, which somehow which somehow wasn't the story. It was Matt Patricia's blunder of a debut. And I could, first of all, so many fans had left the building by the end of the game that I was able to go from the upper bowl to 2 yards behind, like 2 rows behind on the 50-yard line, like right behind the Lions bench. And I was just right behind Patricia when he was just sitting there with that pencil in his ear trying to write down stuff and watching the game. Like, you could just tell the guy was in over his head. Like, it was blatantly obvious.
Yeah, it wasn't just that. It was the disrespect he had for everybody around him.
For sure.
That's what, like he thought he was Bill Belichick without having the resume.
Mm-hmm.
And, Bill Belichick can walk up to you and tell you, stand up straight. You look like shit.
Right.
When this fat asshole with a pencil in his ear that's driving around a 4-wheeler because he can't wobble his ass over to me, like, I don't want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still mad at them, man. I'm still mad at Patricia and Quinn.
Oh,
for multiple reasons. For the Caldwell situation, because that was all Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn wanted to get his boy in, wanted to play buddy ball.
Yep.
And then you got the Slay situation, you got the Diggs situation, like just so much.
Yeah, exactly. I remember being super frustrated after Darius Slay walked out of the building, and I was like, all right, well, now we need to draft a cornerback because we have a need at cornerback. I'm like, you mean the need that you created just by being a prick?
You mean you're praying to get a Darius Slay with this draft that you just had? Like,
yeah, it's like that Family Guy clip. It's like either you could get the boat or what's in this box. It's like it could be anything. It could be another. It could even be a boat. Like, who knows?
Right.
It's like, well, we already had that, man. Like, what are you thinking? Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm so glad that era's over, and I think you're nailed it 100% on the head. Like, I'm so glad we have men in there now and women, because I got to give Sheila Ford Hamp a lot of credit for what she's done in the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad we have people in there now that have their own identity and aren't trying to be anybody else but themselves, because that's when you really win.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like it's all built on, winning from inside out, really having that toughness on the line of scrimmage and having that identity of biting kneecaps coming in. And it's like, it feels Detroit, like honestly, authentically Detroit, which is something that we haven't had in a long time.
Well, never for the Lions, but that, like, you go to the bad boy Pistons, you go to, the going to work Pistons, you go to the grind line. Like, that's what this city embraces, and that's what it's all about. And, Dan Campbell to me is a legend. And the fact that those guys never quit on him. We talked a little bit earlier about coaches being paid to lose. Imagine approaching Dan Campbell and saying, "Oh, I need you to lose." He would rip your head off.
Oh yeah. Even if he could smell that from you if you knocked on the door.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's certainly not a conversation I would be wanting to have with Dan Campbell. If that's just me personally. Yeah.
Hey Dan, we want you to lose.
Oh. Yeah, he would have bitten off one kneecap already. He would have been halfway through.
And I'm so glad we got a guy like that,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And as it gives me shades of even what we're doing with the Pistons right now, which I'm not sure what your thoughts are on what their direction is, where they're at. It was pretty cool. I actually went to the game against Charlotte a week or two ago, and I actually got a picture with Troy Weaver down by the court.
Oh,
yeah, that was a cool moment. What are your thoughts? I
trust Troy Weaver.
What's that?
I said I trust in Troy Weaver.
Yeah, and Troy Weaver we trust.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people hate on Casey. I like Casey too. Aside from him being cool coming in and letting us interview him.
Yeah.
What they're building, with the Crews and the G League team being here.
Yeah.
And just they're building an organization. It's no longer just this, hey, we're going to try to bring in guys. It's no, we're creating a culture. This is how we play the game.
Yeah.
We're going to have a system that represents us and bring us guys that fit this scheme. We're drafting guys that, like the Cade Cunningham thing, obviously a home run.
Mm-hmm.
Having Jalen Green on our team. Ugh.
Oh my goodness! This season would have, as rough as it's been to watch already. If we had Jalen Green, it would be that much worse. It would be that much worse to watch.
I will tell you this though. One thing that's concerning to me is I loved watching last year's team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like watching this year's team.
Yeah.
Wow. I like watching Cade.
Yeah. I think part of it is losing. First of all, I think last year losing was fun in the sense that there was the prospect of a top pick at the end of that, and especially since that was our frame of mind, I think a lot of Pistons fans, and I'm not saying you're doing this, I'm just saying a lot of fans went in with different levels of expectations this year. I think people thought that we were farther along in the process than we actually were. I remember watching the Summer League, and that felt like, the way Pistons Twitter was treating the Summer League, it was like that was like our NBA playoffs. Like people were like, yep, we're going to go in, we're going to win the Summer League, we're going to kick ass, because we had all of our starters except Jeremy Grant out there. And I remember watching the first quarter against the Oklahoma City Thunder Summer League team, and I remember saying, this team's not doing anything. Like this team's not going anywhere. And so I think for me, as someone that went in expecting another year like last year, I think the one difference between this year and last year was last year, pretty much all of our wins were against the teams we weren't supposed to beat. Whereas this year, I think we beat Boston a lot for whatever reason. And then otherwise, some wins are those competitive wins. Some of them are like, against the Magic, or, it's not really like as much of an upset type of team as it was last year. Is that fair to say? Because I remember the Brooklyn win last year. I remember Nick Henkel going in, dumping beer in the shower, all that kind of stuff. We had some crazy moments happen last year.
To me, it's not only that, it's last year they'd lose, but they lose by like 5. Right. It would be a game in 2 minutes, with 2 minutes left. And then you'd be like, okay, they're young, they couldn't get it done, but at least it was a competitive game.
Right.
This year, they're blown out by 20 almost every game. So what am I learning from this team? And what is this team learning?
Right. Well, and I think some of it too. Some of it is, first of all, we're just seeing like Jeremy and Cade, like they're just now learning to play together. It feels like, because they were so in and out of the lineup all throughout the year. I think, as someone that, I wrote an article on the Woodward Sports website that I wrote, the headline is Dwayne Casey's the perfect coach for the Pistons. So I feel like I'm in the minority on that. I also like Dwayne.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah. So to me, when I think people are getting stuck in that mentality of, listen, we're in the dog days of the rebuild right now. We are in the tough part, because there's always a part of a rebuild where you're just getting your ass kicked. You know what I mean? But right. I think it's about finding those signs of life in the midst of that. And it's very similar to the Dan Campbell thing in Detroit of people are like, those guys are still fighting for Dwayne Casey on a night-to-night basis. They're still believing in the program and buying in. And even if we're seeing guys, over the course of the season, I remember at the beginning, Hamidou Diallo wasn't getting some playing time. Now he's a consistent part of our rotation. Frank Jackson had some moments where he shined. He reached like one of his first DMPs of the year the other night. It just seems like we're just trying to figure out who actually is going to be here long term when it's actually time for us to actually compete and do something for real, and it's
to me, the only guy that they have that is a guarantee is Cade. That's it. Yeah. He's the only sacred cow on the team.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're looking for others, like maybe Sadiq, but even then, if you can include Sadiq in a package to get like an even better player, like Kuka Hill, like he made the point. Well, if Jaylen Brown's available, are you trading Sadiq for Jaylen Brown? Of course you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's but otherwise Sadiq's like almost untouchable. But again, I think people look a little too highly into the word untouchable in the league.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. No, outside of Cade, we're open for business, baby, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Looking at the landscape of Detroit, I know one of the topics that was brought up on the morning show a week or two ago was which team in Detroit is closest to win a championship right now. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. As looking at the landscape of all 4 teams in Detroit, obviously I know we're all kind of in a similar spot. It seems like the Tigers and the Red Wings are kind of more on the on the end of their rebuilding phase and looking to start to win now. I mean, the Tigers bringing in Javier Baez, who knows what they can do in free agency when, if the MLB ever opens up for business again, we'll find out. But I mean,
better have my opening day on April 8th, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Come on, man. Give us opening day. That is especially like the concept of that day being delayed, especially after the COVID season we had a couple years ago. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in your opinion, what team in Detroit's exciting you the most, and what teams do you think are still pretty darn far away? I mean, obviously the Lions are pretty far away. They're always far away, but still.
Yeah, the Lions. To me, football though is the easiest one to go from worst to first.
Yeah.
So to me, the Lions always are 2 years away in theory, right? They're always
right.
2 years away in theory.
Right.
Red Wings are probably the furthest along in their rebuild and where they're going to be. So yeah, I'd go Red Wings in this conversation. I do like the Tigers, but they have a lot of young talent coming up. We got to see what Riley Green's going to be. We got to see what Torkelson's going to be. We got to see what those guys are. If they pan out, we're looking pretty damn good.
Yeah, Torkelson, by the way, man, he had a pretty darn good first full year in the minors with how everything went for him. He started the year with the Whitecaps over here on the west side of the state.
Yeah.
And he was out of there before I could have even gotten a chance to go buy tickets and go see him. Like he was there for like 2 weeks, and they were like, yeah, he's too good to be in single A. So yeah. Are they saying, by the way, is Torkelson supposed to be up on this team at all this year, or do you think he's still about a year away from actually making an appearance?
I think by midseason he'll be up. I don't think he's going to start the season on the roster. If he does, that's great. But I think he'll shine with the Mud Hens for a little bit, and then he'll get the call up midseason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Tigers have a lot of pieces moving forward, man, and I'm pretty excited that we actually posted up a video on our Instagram or on our Twitter today at Woodward Sports. Pitchers and catchers, even though they're not reporting, they're still down there throwing, which is
for sure
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully they can figure something out. I think seeing Darren McCarty talk about the Weiser plan and everything that's going on with the Red Wings right now, I think it's impossible to not be excited about the potential of that franchise, especially with the reputation that Steve Yzerman carries with him now too, and just seeing the amount of young talent we already have added since he's been in Detroit, but also how much it feels like the Red Wings of old and that Red Wings culture of winning and that striving and that standard for excellence. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on them, but like you said, being the farthest along, I think is pretty fair. They could be contending for real in the next year or two. It feels like as far as
if they hit on the goalie, man, then we're good. That's the thing. To me, hockey's all about that goalie.
For sure.
You get that hot goalie at the right time, you're doing things. I mean, we know that as Red Wings fans, getting shut down by a guy like John Sebastian Jaguar, and who the hell is this guy? Why can't the number one team in the league score? Well, the 8th seed has this goalie that's on fire right now.
Right.
So I like the Red Wings, but I think all of our teams are in better shape than we were 2 years ago, and that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the exciting things about Woodward Sports is we started when our teams are at the bottom, and not too many people, the diehards are still craving the content. They're still craving to hear about their teams. Mm-hmm. But once we get those fringe fans and I don't know if you probably weren't around down here for the 04 Pistons, but the Palace of Auburn Hills was a nightclub.
So how I became a Pistons fan, I actually, my first ever basketball game I went to was in 2005 when the Pistons, or the 04-05 season, the Pistons used to go play at the Van Andel Arena every year. So my parents took us to go see the defending champions at the Van Andel play against Dallas that year. And so, so from there, at that night, I went and watched that team. I fell in love. I was hooked. I grew up with the going to work Pistons era. I went back and watched a whole lot of stuff in 04. I used to literally fall asleep to the 04 documentary almost every night. Like that team was my childhood team, man. Back when, and I even got to grow up with the Tigers World Series run with Maglio Ordonez hitting that walk off to deep left field against Oakland. And then,
Yeah, yes, baby. My sister was at that game. I still hate her for it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just, that kind of ties well into like the question I kind of wanted to ask you to kind of wrap up. When you think of your favorite moments in Detroit sports history as a Detroit sports fan, what are the moments that pop up in your head? That's a deep question. I know that you could go a lot of different ways with that.
Yeah, well, just to get sentimental, I mean, the minute you say my favorite Detroit sports memory is, I lost my father about 5 years ago to cancer. And when I was like 23 years old, I didn't have a ton of money in the bank, and one day we decided to go to a Tigers game, and I was like, you know what? I just had this gut feeling. I was like, he's like, just buy some like $10 tickets. We'll sit on the outfield. I walk up there and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I bought the best tickets I could afford, right? And we were 6 rows up right behind home plate. It was an interleague game, Tigers versus Chicago Cubs. And it ended up with Ryan Rayburn hitting a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th.
Oh, man.
And to me, that's my all-time Detroit sports moment. Like, it wasn't a championship or anything like that, but it was – sorry, my dog's going nuts.
Oh, no, you're good, man. You're good.
It was sharing that moment with my pops. And now that he's gone, like, I would do anything to go back to that specific moment. But
yeah,
honestly, I've had so many, like, just the things flashing through my head right now. Job at best, breaking that 80-yard run in Ford Field, and the Lions scoring 35 unanswered points against the Bears in that game in the fourth quarter. It's the loudest I ever heard Ford Field. The Lions, saving their season, winning their last game, going 1-15 in the Silverdome. Johnny Morton doing the worm. Like the going to work intro when they hit Ben Wallace would come in, boosh. And, you'd feel the heat and all that. Mason yelling. There's so many, man. There's just so many. Going to old Tiger Stadium and watching Kirk Gibson play, and just Detroit sports has just meant so much to me. I literally can't pin down one memory besides that specific one with my pops.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of my favorite memories in Detroit sports, it was actually you just struck a nostalgia, just struck like a beat of nostalgia in me, bringing up that that boom in the Palace whenever they did that. I went to quite a few games as a kid at the Palace, and that. First of all, that building was special. Like the memories and everything that happened in that building. I mean, all 3 of our championships were won at our time playing in the Palace of Auburn Hills. So that building's inherent.
And don't forget about the Shock.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Don't forget the Detroit Shock. Bill Lambier, head coach. I mean,
and the Vipers used to play in there too, man.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we have one of the best, one of the historically best programs in the WNBA, and we don't have a team anymore, and now they're in Dallas. I mean, that's a whole other.
Are they in Dallas? I thought they were Tulsa.
They went to Tulsa, and then they went from Tulsa down to Dallas, apparently. Yeah. So, so that's cool.
I lost track of the Shock.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to care when they were in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right.
But I even remember like watching like the pregame tunnel, like Richard Hamilton would go up to all those guys and do the shadow boxing. Yeah, exactly. Like every time I saw that footage of them in the tunnel, it got me so hyped. And watching that team just really just piss other players off and just like get players out of their comfort zone. Yeah, exactly. I remember the first time I saw LeBron James live was back in 2005 when they played at the Palace. And I remember LeBron had one of the worst games of his career at the time. He had like 5 points, and a lot of that was because of the defense that they played. And a lot of that was because of what they were doing. And, like guys like, Rasheed Wallace and Tayshaun Prince would cause a lot of problems for other teams. Ben Wallace, obviously down to the post. I mean, just so many things about that team, man. I mean, that team was special to me.
So good they had to change the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, the game of basketball after the 04 year changed because of that team. When the game has to change because you broke it, essentially, that's when you know you did good. That's when you know you did good.
The Pistons have done it twice. Go back to the Jordan Bulls era. And they took out hand checking so Jordan could be, the Jordan he is, by the way. Happy belated birthday to him too. But yeah, dude, I used to love those teams. I was such a part of those teams because I was going to Pistons games a lot in like 01, 02, 03, like Chuck Yatkins, Jed Bushler, you know, like Tree Rollins, all those guys, you know, like Terry Mills, and, you know, just back in the day. And it was so special to watch that 2014 because I could tell you how every single person got on it. You know, everybody from, you know, Duncan Darvin Ham to Memo Okur to Zeljko Rabrasha, you know, like I could still list them all and tell you the path they took. And that team was just so special. I was working for a local radio station during that time, 93.1 DRQ, which was owned by ABC Disney. And if you remember, ABC was carrying the finals at the time.
Yeah.
So when the parade happened, like we had press passes, we got all access. It was literally one of the highlight years of my life, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The thing that excites me most about being a Pistons fan is the idea of that happening in my adult life. I mean, being able to when the draft happened, I actually went to the draft party that they had down at the Little Caesars Arena, and being there when that happened, and when, you know, the number one pick is the closest thing we've gotten since then, which obviously, you know, you're not, you as a franchise just generally don't want to aim to be the number one pick. However, I mean, that was a pretty awesome moment in Detroit sports. However, you know, when we get back to that, when there's a winning team in Detroit, there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it.
And that's what Woodward sports is going to be on fire, baby.
Oh man. Watching that parade in LA, like all of us in Detroit were like, that's cute. The next time we have one here, we're going to show every team in America how it's done.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're going to be louder than everybody else. And, Stick, you're one of those guys that'll be in the front row yelling, and man, and dude, seriously, I want to thank you so much for being here. People can follow you on Twitter down at Stick Radio. I have it right under you right here, but seriously, man, thank you so much for hopping on. This was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, anytime, man. Really proud of everything you're accomplishing in your short amount of time. The fact that you had a goal, you wanted to get on, you beat down the door and did it. Like, keep doing that shit, man. Don't stop. Absolutely,
man. I really appreciate it, and that's what we're trying to do here from F Court Reach, and every week we sit down and talk. Sometimes we're talking basketball. Sometimes we're talking Detroit sports, man. We talk a lot of things here, but if you like that, be sure to follow the channel, subscribe here, check out my work on Woodward Sports. Be sure to subscribe to the network, follow Stick on Twitter, follow everything that's going on over there, man, because the city of Detroit is going to be different because of Woodward Sports. Mark my words, man. It's an up-and-coming network, and we're just getting started, baby. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.